forget. Tomas didn't forget. You guys voted this show in, and now we're going to talk about it. Tomas and I watched King of the Ring 2001 recently. And Tomas, I got to say...
Better late than never.
Yeah, better late than never. Yeah, and it was a good show. It was a really good show.
Oh, yes. I know we were doing this because... What the fuck were we doing this for? Hell in a Cell month? But yeah. June is famously known for King of the Ring. So we thought it'd be fun to look at one of the better King of the Rings, not counting the 90s era. And honestly, this is probably the most memorable. And honestly, not for the tournament. It was mainly known for one match that we'll be getting into, and that is the absolute grudge match that was Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon. That is infamous for the right and the wrong reasons, in my opinion.
It is an ultimate performance, if I ever saw one, from two guys. Kurt Angle, we'll talk a lot about him on this podcast because he famously wrestled 3 matches on this card, and he continuously touts that still to this very day, and he's very proud of it, which is nothing to be ashamed of at all. I mean, wrestling 3 matches on a show, and this is really kind of indicative of how WWF was at the time. Because Tomas and I were talking a little bit about this. Their roster was a little bit depleted, especially in the main event scene. The Rock was filming the Scorpion King at the time. And a few weeks before this pay-per-view is when Triple H tore his quad. So, Kurt Angle wrestling 3 matches doesn't really surprise me all that much.
Oh, no. And they had the saddle on this guy at this point. This was basically Angle's ultimate test of whether he could hang with the big dogs, honestly, and he passed with flying colors, and he would be rewarded, very handsomely after this pay-per-view. It would start with the big babyface run, and then him capturing his first WWF championship at, was it SummerSlam or Unforgiven later on this year?
I think it was his second WWF title, because he won it at No Mercy the previous year from The Rock.
That's right.
So but he got the big, American hero babyface run shortly after 9/11, so they certainly rewarded him big time. And Kurt was continuously on the top of the card after this. But he actually does open the pay-per-view. And the reason why he's wrestling 3 matches is because he's trying to go for a 2-peat. He was last year's King of the Ring in 2000. And now he's facing Christian in this opener here in the semifinals. And I thought, technically speaking, this was one of the better matches on this card. Kurt and Christian was very much... I don't want to say he was underutilized, but he was very much an unsung hero of the Attitude Era. A lot of people talk about Edge. Christian is so good. So good.
Christian was on the cusp of his big first heel run on his own because, as we'll be talking about later in this show, he's kind of in the middle of sort of turning on Edge. This is, again, honest, and one thing that we do need to bring up, as this is, this was leading up to the big invasion angle, which is infamous for all the wrong reasons as well.
It sure is.
Shane McMahon, WCW, and he just bought out, all the wrestlers, and wrestlers from WCW are starting to show up, and a lot of wrestlers are starting to be questioning the WWF whether or not their allegiance still lies with Vince and the WWF, or if it's kind of crossing paths over to Shane and WCW.
Christian and Edge certainly were having their brotherly issues here and there. It was right on the cusp of greatness in terms of a Kane and Abel style rivalry. It's a tale as old as time, as they would say. And he's coming in here, not yet the jealous brother, but he's almost there. And a big reason why is because he loses to Kurt Angle in this match, which is a very good match. And one of the big stories, of course, is Kurt Angle's big street fight with Shane McMahon later on in the show. And Shane actually comes out and helps Kurt Angle win this match. Christian hits the kill switch on Kurt Angle, and Shane pulls Christian off of Kurt as the ref is trying to make the 3 count. And then the commentators are just so confused. They're like, what the hell did he do that for? And they have they're not smart at all. They can't put 2 and 2 together that Shane is trying to fatigue Kurt as much as possible.
Exactly. And that's why, Shane's not trying to help Angle win this tournament. He wants Angle to be as absolutely tired as possible. And if Christian gets this win over Angle, that means Angle gets to rest up for this street fight. But no, Shane wants to make sure Angle goes to the finals, and he wants to make sure Christian and Edge or Rhino as we'll talk about later in the show, are able to punish Angle as much as possible going into their street fight. Like, say what you want to Shane about Shane as a person, say what you want about as a wrestler. Kayfabe, he's very smart. And this was probably the smartest decision he made on this night.
Oh, totally. Totally. He's a wily veteran, if you will. But, you know, I mean, this opener well worked. Christian hit that unprettier, Shane costing him the match. It's great psychology. And then Kurt hits a really nice angle slam over the top rope into the ring and wins, advances to the finals of the tournament. Good opener. Crowd was certainly into it. They were certainly into Kurt Angle. I don't really think anyone believes that Christian would win, but could you imagine if Christian had actually pulled the upset here?
And we could have got Edge and Christian in the finals, which I think would have been very interesting. But for storyline, for storyline purposes, I think this match served exactly what it needed to do. Nothing too crazy here, but still a solid opener, and it got the running narrative that honestly, I hate to bury the main event because it's a very good main event, but this pay-per-view was the Angle and Shane show. That's what this whole pay-per-view was based around.
Yeah. More so the Kurt Angle show, not to be confused with his podcast or anything like that, where he talks about matches like this. But anyhow, the tournament continues. Kurt Angle is facing the winner of the next match, Tomas.
Next up, we have Edge taking on the War Machine Rhino. What a sleeper hit.
Was he known as the War Machine at this point, or was he the man?
He wasn't, but it's just the first thing that comes to mind. You know, it'd be weird too if I still called him the Rookie Monster. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to call him the Veteran Monster at this point?
Oh my God, no! He's the guy who's running for mayor. That's not Glenn Jacobs, but.
Okay, funny thing I want to bring up about Rhino. Rhino is still going strong today, believe it or not. He's still going strong in Impact Wrestling. And I look at him and I think, wow, he looks really good for his age. But then I go back and watch these earlier shows and holy shit, how slim he was in the early 2000s. I was going to say, nothing against Rhino now. Obviously, you know, age shows. I'm not saying he's...
Yeah. Rhino's like a square now. But like when you look back at him in 2001, shortly after the ECW buyout, like he was jacked, dude. Like he could have been pushed to the top of the WWF if they really believed in Rhino enough. I feel like he would have been a solid main eventer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As could Edge, and this is like it disappointed me that he didn't come out to Never Gonna Stop on this show. I don't think he had gotten that theme song at this point, unfortunately, but. You know what I just noticed is all four members of Team Rec are making up the semifinals here. Edge, Rhino, Christian, and Kurt.
Yep.
There you go.
Very interesting. Very interesting full circle for all these men. But this was a good match. This was physical. It was stiff. Rhino and
violent,
Edge.
Man.
Yeah. Rhino and Edge really got, you know, they really brought out the best in each other. And I think the best spot of this match was the colliding spear in gore, which, ouch, that looked like it fucking hurt. They collided heads. They collided shoulders. They really did not hold back with that spot.
Yeah, Paul Heyman even said on commentary, and God bless Paul Lee, but he was like, one of these blokes is walking into the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, and the other is leaving with a separated shoulder. And I'm like, don't both of them leave with a separated shoulder regardless of who goes to the finals?
Basically, yeah, that was a nasty spot.
Yeah, and Edge was selling his... He was selling his arm through most of the match, as well as his ribs, and Rhino was working over them very, very well. Edge getting thrown into the ring post and all that.
One thing Rhino's not appreciated enough for is his stiff suplexes. He hit some nice belly-to-bellies, some nice T-bone suplexes. I don't think Rhino gets enough credit for his in-ring work. Because I feel like on several occasions, we have talked about Rhino on this show, and all of them have just been, wow, that was a really good match. Wow, that was a really good match. He was a really good worker, but he never got the machine behind him because I feel like he was just looked at as, oh, he was that ECW guy. And I feel like most ECW guys were frowned upon, whether it be Sandman or Tommy Dreamer or Balls Mahoney, or with the exception of like RVD and a Sabu, they were just looked at as, oh, they're spot monkeys. They just want to use weapons and we can't really get anything. You have Rhino here, who is constantly on the undercard, and he is having banger after banger after banger. We said it once, we said it again. Go watch the wash your mouth out with soap match with him and John Cena. That's another good one.
Yeah, it's a fun match. Watch this match with Raven that we talked about in the Backlash 01 pod. That's a sleeper hardcore match.
Nobody really talks about it because it wasn't on pay-per-view, but the little mini feud he had with Chris Benoit after turning on him. Yep. He did some good work there too. So Rhino's definitely, he's a hidden gem. We call matches hidden gems all the time, but he himself is a hidden gem.
Rhino was a sure hand for sure, and you were guaranteed to have a good match. I'm sure people would look at Rhino and think, oh, I know this match is going to be fucking violent, because Rhino would make you believe that this shit was real. But
hell, go back even further. Speaking of ECW, go watch his ECW shit. He was tearing people in fucking half with that gore. Poor Beulah. Yeah. That poor woman got her absolutely just shredded apart by Rhino. But fucking props to her for taking those gores.
Yeah. Now, Rhino would get the machine behind him when he would go to TNA, now known as Impact Wrestling, in a few years after this. He would become the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion over there. Never won the world title in WWE, unfortunately, because, again, Rhino was something else. He never got to hit the gore on Edge in this match, which is honestly all for the better, because it honestly protects the gore all that much more as a devastating finisher. But Edge does not win with his spear. He hits what JR calls the Impaler, but it's better known as the Execution. And Tomas is adamant that it's called the Execution, aren't you?
Edge has the best names for his finishers, and for some reason, WWE fucking refuses to acknowledge him. The Execution, the Edge-O-Matic, the Educator. They're known as the Impaler DDT, the Inverted Sharpshooter, and the, oh my God, Edge hit a move, he goes for the pin, and the kick out at 2.
It's the inverted neck buster.
Which I don't know why WWE absolutely refuses to call that the Edge-O-Matic. It reminds me of Alberto's kick, and JBL would call it, that's the kick he used to win the world title kick.
He's got to be specific. You got to be specific about the credentials of the stupidest move in wrestling history. Holding yourself up for a double foot stomp from Alberto Del Rio. But anyway.
Fun fact, I used to call that Border Patrol.
Oh, shit. And now there's a tag
team. Hire me, WWE.
And now there's a tag team on the independent scene known as the Border Patrol. But anyway, Edge does move on to the finals, and what I believe is his first ever one-on-one match with Kurt Angle, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll talk about how
weird it was when I saw that, and I was like, wow, this was a whole year prior to their iconic feud in 2002 that would lead to Kurt Angle shaving his head.
Yes, which we've talked about in great detail already, Tomas. Those of you who've been with us for a while, thank you very much. You guys know that we talk about that feud with flying colors, but Edge and Rhino had a really good match here. I mean, I would call it 3.5 stars. It's a really nice sleeper hit on the show. Not as well remembered as some of these other matches we'll talk about, certainly. But yeah, looking forward to talking about Edge and Kurt in a little bit here.
Yeah, oh yeah, and we move on to a backstage segment where kind of tensions between Christian and Edge are rising. Edge still doesn't believe Christian is still his friend at this point. And, Christian is congratulating him, just saying like, oh, we're going to celebrate after the match. And Edge is just, he's a little skeptical. He wants to believe his friend. He wants to believe, but he knows that like he's starting to, read in between the lines. And there'll be another segment later that we'll talk about where it'll illustrate that a little more.
And keeping in mind, they are brothers in this storyline, not just friends like they would be portrayed in 2011 to the viewers. They were legitimately brothers in storyline, which honestly I feel like would make this feud all the more emotional.
As a kid, I bought it.
Yeah, they looked like doppelgangers. Their long blonde hair, they looked similar enough. They sounded similar enough. I mean, I bought that they were brothers.
For some reason, that's such a hard concept in wrestling. Totally off topic, but I remember in 2009, I was watching wrestling with my uncle, who for some reason just liked to chaticize me for watching wrestling. And we were watching the Cologne brothers. And he goes, they're brothers? I go, yeah. No, seriously, are they brothers? I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
Weird concept, right? Not everything in wrestling is staged. Like, no, like in actual real life, they are brothers. I'm like, yeah, they look like each other too. Weird concept, isn't it?
Are the Usos actually twins?
No. Like Kevin Owens says, screens, post editing.
Are Elias and Ezekiel two different people?
Absolutely, they are.
Yeah, but of course they are. Yeah, Greg Morgan confirmed it.
Speaking of brothers,
before we get to that, I'm a dummy because I completely forgot to mention how the show actually began. So, before all this King of the Ring tournament bullshit, we actually have Diamond Dallas Page, one of the WCW invaders, getting a Shield-like entrance into the arena. Now, think about this for a second. Our last podcast, Tomas, was No Way Out 2004, right? And one of the big storylines was Goldberg being given a front row ticket by Sheriff Stone Cold Steve Austin to sit front row, and he's told, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Well, this time, Diamond Dallas Page is an invading force from WCW, just went out of business. And apparently he's bought a front row ticket with a bunch of the unemployment benefits he was getting. But anyway, he comes down the concourse Shield style, and they play his music. Why are they playing his music? Why is he getting an entrance?
He gets in the ring, cuts a whole ass promo talking about how he wants the Undertaker to make him famous.
Yes.
He's talking about, so basically, before we get into more of this point, the whole storyline here is that somebody has been secretly videotaping the Undertaker's now ex-wife, Sarah. She's, doing her laundry. She's going for a walk. She's at the grocery store, and some freak is stalking her and taking video of her, all to get the Undertaker's attention. DDP reveals that it's him, and he said that's why he did it. That's why he's been stalking Undertaker's wife. He wants Undertaker to make him famous, and he feels like this is the only way to get his attention. Now, Big Evil is fired up, and he's coming to the King of the Ring to kick DDP's ass. DDP cuts a whole ass promo, just telling Taker he's going to be right there in the front row. And that's when I realized, so you mean to tell me if I buy a front row ticket to a WWE pay-per-view, I can hop the barricade, get in the ring, and cut a whole ass promo?
Yeah. He goes in there, and so you're telling me that next time I go to a WWE Raw event, for example, if I buy a front row seat, then that means that security can escort Tomas and I down to the front row, and they'll play like the Young Bucks music or something like that to give us a grand entrance. And then I can try and pick a fight with Austin Theory or something like that and tell me, oh yeah, who's your daddy? I can cut a whole promo on Austin Theory. It's like,
yeah,
come on now. Just how ridiculous does that sound?
I don't care if DDP is a wrestler. If that's the case, then how come Enzo got kicked out Survivor Series 2018?
Right.
He bought a ticket. He can't cause a ruckus.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say.
Anywho.
The one thing I really, really liked about this whole ordeal, because I'm sure we'll get to the inevitable nonsense later on. The one thing I loved about this was Diamond Dallas Page himself. His promo wasn't really the greatest written promo, but god damn it, the way DDP delivered all this was with such conviction was so awesome.
He made it work. And trust me, I'm going to complain a lot about this later when we get to the actual confrontation. That is DDP Undertaker, which they are advertising like it's a match.
It's not a match, though. It's not a match. And they give it a whole video package.
Doesn't end up being a match. But anywho, more on that later. We will be talking about it in great detail.
Yeah. Can I ask you one more question about this before we continue? I'm sorry to dwell on this so long, but why was DDP stalking the Undertaker's wife when he is happily married to a very attractive woman in Kimberly? What difference does it make? Is it just so fuck with the Undertaker?
He literally thought this was the only way to get Undertaker's attention. You couldn't just jump him in the parking lot. You couldn't attack him at the airport. You couldn't do anything else but stalk his wife. But we can't get off this subject just yet, because throughout the show, and I feel like up to this point, DDP starts getting shown footage of his own. It shows him at a restaurant eating lunch. It shows him at the parking lot pulling up to the show. Someone has turned the cards on DDP, and they are starting to stalk him. And Paul Heyman goes to interview him, and as the fucking hypocrite DDP says, who the hell goes around recording people without their permission? Like he hasn't been doing that for the past month.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like he hasn't been, what a fucking hypocrite. What a fucking hypocrite indeed. But yeah, more on this in a bit. So Tomas and I have talked about a lot of random tag teams. We have seen pure horrors. Edge and Hollywood Hulk Hogan defending the WWE tag team titles. We have seen Taz and Spike Dudley. We have come across Mark Jindrak and Garrison Cade. Well, for the WWF tag team titles, the Dudley Boyz, who just won the titles the previous SmackDown from Benoit and Jericho, with no thanks to Stone Cold Steve Austin, of course. The Dudley Boyz are going to be defending against their rogue brother Spike, and he's got a mystery partner up his sleeve. And who else would it be but the Intercontinental Champion Kane? Spike Dudley.
Oh, you mean piece of shit Mayor Glenn Jacobs?
Yeah.
Who is permanently on my shit list. On my shit list forever. That motherfucker can go fuck off. I am disowning Kane as of last month. He will forever be referred to as Glenn Jacobs on this podcast. Obviously, I'm not going to ignore what's going on in the product, but I am disowning him as of now. You know, we don't like talking politics on this it's not politics, God damn it. It's not politics. Glenn Jacobs is a monster. He's in politics, he's a monster too, but his views are absolute shit. And honestly, he has disappointed me to no end, where I have lost all respect for that man, which is a shame because he supplied me with years and years of entertainment, and to find out the human being he actually is unforgivable.
Yeah.
Sorry, had to get that off my chest.
No. He's the big red monster, you know? But he comes out here. He's the Intercontinental Champion. For some reason, he's teaming with Spike because I guess he wants another belt to add to his trophy case, which is probably burnt to a crisp at this point, just like Bray Wyatt is at this point, probably. But anywho, fucking relax, right? So this isn't really much of a match, unfortunately. The Dudleys are basically selling the fact that, oh, our little brother's got a monster. But they keep beating the shit out of little Spike. Bubba there's one back body drop Bubba hits on Spike, and he puts Spike into fucking orbit. Like, I hate to keep using that line there, but that's literally what happened.
But he does. What he does.
Yeah, Spike, like, literally hits the top of the catwalk here on this back body drop.
That was probably the best thing about Spike. He was literally the spot sponge. You could do whatever you want to him, and he would fucking sell it. You want to talk about ECW? Go back and watch his match with Mike Awesome, when Mike Awesome fucking chucks this kid into the fucking third row. Go watch the Awesome Bomb he takes through a flaming table. Mm-hmm. Hell, we've talked about it before. The nasty bump he took against La Resistance, where his head somehow did not get disconnected from his body, connecting with that table.
I think you described him on a previous pod as a crash test dummy, and I think that's a perfect way to compare Spike Dudley to, I guess. I don't know what the word I was looking for there, but in any case, the Dudleys eventually, so Kane gets the hot tag, and he's a house of fire, literally, of course. The Dudleys then hit the what's up on Glenn Jacobs.
Except for they don't, because Paul Heyman is looking so forward to it. And he goes, oh, I love this part. And they just do it. And JR just goes, well, you can say what's up now.
Yeah, you can say
Poor Heyman. Now. He was looking so forward to that spot. It disappointed him.
Heyman's such a geek for the Dudleys. Again, he loves his ECW guys, which is interesting when you think about where Paul Heyman would be a month after this. So then what happens is Spike goes in, and Spike was hitting some good counters here and there. Like he hits his Dudley dog on Bubba, which is a really nice move, the Dudley dog. But then they hit the Dudley death drop on Spike, and they just pin this bloke. They retain the titles. I mean, would you really expect Spike Dudley and Glenn Jacobs to become the tag champions at this point? No,
not against the Dudley Boyz. Almost called them Team 3D. Got me in a TNA mood. But no, this match was here just to be here. This was to continue the feud that the Dudleys had with their brother Spike. They just turned heel on him. They're bullying him. They're making fun of him and his girlfriend Molly Holly at the time. And this was just a way to kind of further that feud.
It works. It works, you know. Not really a whole lot to say about it. I mean, I could give it like a star and a half, maybe. The crowd really wasn't all that into it. They were into it, oddly enough, when Kane was getting the hot tags and like running wild on the heels. But I mean, this just wasn't an investing feud, unfortunately.
No,
it really could have been.
But up next is the King of the Ring finals as Edge challenges. He might as well have been challenging for the throne. Angle is the previous winner. Yeah, it's Edge versus Angle.
He's the defending King of the Ring. So, I mean, I guess you could say he's challenging him. And it's interesting. This is the first time I think they're ever facing off one-on-one. So they're playing off the fact that they're friends.
Man, oh man, do these guys have chemistry. From match 1 through 2002, through any other matches that they have missed after that, these guys click.
It didn't really get a lot of time either. I think they only got about 10 minutes to do their thing.
Let me double check here. Yep, 10 minutes, 20 seconds. 10 minutes. Just as long as Edge's match with Rhino.
Wow.
Coincidentally enough.
There you go. Well, Edge was working, Edge worked 20 minutes, double duty. Kurt is double duty at this time, about to be triple duty. But, the writing's on the wall. Kurt is, well, actually, do you want to talk about this Kurt Angle promo before the match actually starts?
The one, you're going to have to refresh my memory a little. Was he cutting one on the way to the ring? Or am I thinking about the one backstage?
So after Edge gets into the ring, Kurt grabs the mic and he's like, listen.
Oh, yes, I remember now.
I'm tired. I don't want to be tired from my match later on. So everybody knows that I'm better than you and that I can beat you, Edge. So why don't you save yourself the embarrassment? Just let me win this by forfeit, and then we'll go on with our day, because that's what friends do.
He says this like he's doing Edge a favor. He just says it so nonchalantly, like, I got this street fight going on, and I really don't want to embarrass you, so come on. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Just let me beat you.
And of course, Edge pops him a big one right in the mouth, and then it's just very physical from that point on. Edge continues to sell the ribs brilliantly, might I add. Kurt Angle, I don't think Kurt was hurt in his first match with Christian, so he wasn't really having to do a ton of selling, but, I mean, exactly to your point, those two just clicked instantly. Great chemistry. And it's only, like, this match could have been so much better with more time, but with what Kurt Angle had to do later on in the card, I can completely understand why this match wasn't as long as it could have been.
And two storylines that are entering this match is, again, we talked about it. Christian and Edge are on the cusps, and Christian kind of shows his true colors here because Edge is able to get a roll up, and Christian comes out and distracts the referee, preventing his brother from winning the match.
Mm-hmm. He sure does. And Edge is a little befuddled by this, and he tells Christian to go to the back. Kurt hits Angle slam, I want to say, and a nice near fall there. Shane McMahon, after being the smartest man in New Jersey that night, befuddling the commentators for some reason, finally goes out there and clocks Kurt Angle humongously in the face, runs through the crowd, and then Edge takes advantage, hits the execution, and becomes the King of the Ring. And then it dawns on the commentators. Now it's hit them. Oh, Shane was trying to make Kurt tired. You don't say. You don't say.
Why would Shane want Angle to win the King of the Ring? Why would you want to boast this man's ego going into a street fight?
Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
Edge is the King of the Ring, and I really, really hate to say it. This is probably the most forgettable King of the Ring winner of all time because Edge doesn't get a throne. He doesn't get the scepter. He doesn't even get recognized on the stage with Mean Gene Okerlund. He is announced King of the Ring, and that's honestly the last we ever hear of it.
Well, he would carry around a trophy for a little bit, and Christian would get jealous and like hold the trophy for him.
He was the least king of the King of the Ring history, in my opinion.
Less king than Mr. Ass?
Watch your mouth. Your mouth when you talk about the one Billy Gunn.
I got him.
You know, say what you want.
He wasn't
about
even the
King
one Billy
Sheamus
Gunn, you
and
idiot.
King Barrett. Say what you want about King Barrett and King Sheamus and King Corbin and King Hunter, King Brett. Say what you want about all of them. At least they got, you know, the recognition of being the King of the Ring. Even King Woods. Say anything you want about those gimmicks. I'm not saying the King of the Ring needs to carry around the gimmick, but at least, I don't know. It just felt very underwhelming.
Yeah, I can certainly see what you're saying there, man.
I feel like the King of the Ring was more used as a plot device in the Edge and Christian feud more than the actual accolation.
Edge didn't even get a title shot, really.
No,
because I know
I miss those days. How come every King of the Ring wasn't like 2002, where the winner got a shot at the WWE Championship going into SummerSlam?
Yes, the next year Brock Lesnar would win the King of the Ring and go on to SummerSlam, and the rest is history.
Hell, Shinsuke Nakamura got the crown in the cloak, and he didn't even win a damn tournament. So who gives a fuck about a crown and a scepter when you could get a shot at the championship when you go through a grueling tournament?
Exactly. Bring the King of the Ring back. If you're gonna do that, Triple H, make it mean something.
Give me one reason why Xavier Woods should not have gotten a Universal Championship match after beating Finn Balor of all people.
There's no reason why. There's no reason why.
Wade Barrett, Sheamus, hell, even Happy Corbin, all could have benefited from a world title shot winning this tournament. William Regal was supposed to get the push before he got clocked for a wellness violation.
He sure was, wasn't he? Who's going to be the WWE champion? Yeah, but
as historic as the King of the Ring tournament is, I know this is a hot take. At the end of the day, it's pointless if you're not going to do anything with the winner.
If they're not going to do anything, just don't even do it. But
yeah, it's historic. Trust me. I love Stone Cold Steve Austin beating Jake Roberts. I loved Bret Hart winning the King of the Ring. I loved Lesnar winning the King of the Ring. But if you're not going to do anything with it, then feels more like a punishment nowadays, doesn't it? You have to have the King gimmick. Nah.
I mean, I do love me a good books tournament, but make the King of the Ring mean something, man. So next up, DDP, just has some more videos shown of him throughout the day. We don't get to that confrontation yet because we have a very forgettable light heavyweight championship match to get to. Jeff Hardy, that's right, Jeff Hardy defending the title against X-Pac. And X-Pac does come out to the Uncle Cracker theme song that Brian Zane has chastised so many times. I don't care. I love that theme song. It's so fun.
I do too. It's a guilty pleasure.
I got everything I ever wanted, and I'm gonna give it. Yeah.
Because when Sean Waltman comes out to the ring, you'll be dealing with the X Factor.
Yeah. Oh, damn. For sure.
It's a shame.
And
how forgettable was Jeff Hardy as light heavyweight champion, you may ask? So forgettable that when he came out, I said, oh, I don't remember Jeff being European champion at this time. Because he wasn't.
He was a light heavyweight champion. There's a difference.
For all those who don't remember, and I know we've talked about this in a pod before, the light heavyweight title was WWE's, and I'm using air quotations right now, their answer to the cruiserweight title.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the title that made the cruiserweights famous in WCW. It was Rey Mysterio. It was Chris Jericho. It was Eddie Guerrero. It was Dean Malenko. It was Psychosis. It was Juventud.
Exactly.
It was the guys. It was the workers. Somehow WWE got it right in 2017 and 2018 with their cruiserweight division. But it wasn't the title. It was the talent. So this was a very forgettable title. Nobody remembers this except for maybe a WrestleMania match here, a pay-per-view match there. They didn't do anything with their guys.
Right. Didn't do anything with their guys, and lo and behold, this is a very forgettable match. There's no real heat to it. Crowd doesn't really care. And it's a darn shame because both of these guys, I know you're going to disagree with me when I say this about Jeff Hardy, Tomas, but both these guys were good workers at the time. I mean, they're both good high flyers. I mean, X-Pac definitely more so the better worker for sure. But I thought they had a nice little match here. I mean, it was perfect average.
you want to talk about being on the cusp of things. This was, I feel like, the Jeff Hardy experiment in 2001. They noticed that Jeff was a lot more popular than Matt. And this is when they would start teasing, kind of sort of a rift between the Hardy Boys, which would kind of turn into a feud near the end of the year. And that got snuffed out because, props to Jeff. Vince McMahon wanted it to be Jeff was going to start flirting with Matt's girlfriend at the time, Lita. Jeff stood up for himself, said he didn't feel comfortable doing that. Thankfully, the whole rivalry was scrapped. And as we saw at the Royal Rumble, the Hardy Boys reunited to take on The Undertaker. But this was kind of the Jeff Hardy experiment before they started teasing that rift.
The Hardy Boys were too popular to break them up at this point. Their feud in 2009, much better. Much better. But this version of the Hardy Boys...
Hell, their feud in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
In TNA.
Yeah, in Impact, absolutely much better. That's how you get the final deletion. You don't get the final deletion without another really nice Hardy's feud in there. But, yeah, Jeff Hardy was going through some experimentation here. Very brief run with the IC title. He did get to beat Triple H on an episode of SmackDown. But, yeah, very forgettable run as light heavyweight champion because he would lose it to X-Pac not too long after the show. He would retain. He would retain with a swanton. The referee did fuck up a 3 count, too. X-Pac hits Jeff with his finisher, the X Factor, and then the ref counts 1, 2, Jeff with his foot on the ropes, and 3, and then X-Pac is like, yeah, I'm the champion, and then the ref's like, no, I didn't ring the bell, his foot was on the ropes. So I'm like, Paul Heyman said, you counted 3! You screwed X-Pac! And I'm like, yeah, you did. You did, brother.
Yeah. It was a match. It was there. Yeah,
it was perfectly average. Nothing really wrong with it. The crowd just wasn't all that into it, unfortunately. But
so
they would kind of wake up before the next match. This is where you get the Ddp confrontation with the Undertaker. Ddp has shown a final video, and it was revealed that it's been Sarah, the Undertaker's wife, the whole time, who is not Michelle McCool, might I add. Sarah has been filming Ddp the whole night, kind of as an act of revenge, kind of
giving Ddp a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be welcoming to the stalker if the stalkee was stalking? I don't know. This is such a weird.
Remember, I as kind of gross as this angle was. Remember, Ddp wasn't stalking Sarah because he wanted Sarah. He just wanted to get the Undertaker's attention, but he. In the great words of The Undertaker in this feud, you don't fuck with his family. And that's what got Undertaker all pissed off. So Sarah reveals that it was her, and then Undertaker hits the ring. And then here where my issues start with this whole confrontation thing. Number one detail that I have yet to point out. How are you going to take WCW's quintessential babyface and Diamond Dallas Page's story is a really nice one. He didn't start professional wrestling until he was 33 years old and told he was not going to succeed. He went into WCW with very little training and very little experience. He got over as a motherfucker. He was the hottest babyface, and he is known for one of the top-rated segments in WCW Nitro history, where the NWO is trying to recruit Ddp, and he is the one guy to say, basically no, because he takes the NWO shirt, he hits Hulk Hogan with the diamond cutter, and he escapes into the crowd. It's an iconic shot. It's an iconic segment. And when it came to being the top babyface during that time, there was no one better than Ddp. So how are you going to take the unsung hero of WCW and then immediately turn him into a heel? It's the same issue I had with Scott Steiner a couple of years later. How are you going to take WCW's quintessential heel and turn him into a boring babyface?
It's exactly right. In reverse, Ddp should have come in here as a freaking hero, but since he was not a Vince McMahon made project, he was kind of thrust into the picture as, oh, you're going to be my guy's punching bag. That's exactly what happened. Ddp does not hit a diamond cutter at any point during this confrontation. The Undertaker comes in here, and he gets a gigantic pop from this crowd, might I add, because he's the fucking Undertaker. He goes in there and he beats the absolute fuck out of Dallas Page.
That is my second issue with this segment. They buried Ddp on night fucking 1.
Yeah. after
I
giving him
get
a
it.
Shield entrance.
I get it. He is the stalker heel, and if you are a casual fan watching this, you want to see the shit get beaten out of him. But on night fucking one,
yeah,
he is done for. Absolutely donezo. This man is a former WCW heavyweight champion. He is a former United States champion. Again, go back to 96 and 97 and 98. He is the most over motherfucker, babyface wise, in that company. Hell, maybe even more over than Goldberg.
Oh, yeah. More over than Goldberg for sure. He gave Goldberg his best match ever at Halloween Havoc 98. DDP was the one responsible for that. So to have him come in, it's almost like, imagine you're watching Survivor Series 2012 for a second. Fast forward 11 years. You have the Shield come in and make their, like, iconic debut. But instead of that, instead of them, like, getting one over on Ryback just goes in there and beats the fuck out of all three of them and then goes and wins the WWE title. That would be essentially, like, that's pretty much what happened here.
DDP or if Shield made their debut and then the very next night on Raw, John Cena beats all three of them in a 3-on-1 handicap match.
Ridiculous. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but that's what they did with Diamond Dallas Page here. And he runs away like a freaking scalded dog. The Undertaker does not hit a last ride. He has pounded DDP mercilessly. And granted, yeah, this is a revenge storyline for The Undertaker, but with a big star like DDP, like, you can't do that to him. Come on.
And as we saw later in the years, DDP would go on to accomplish Jack Diddley shit in the WWE. He would capture the European Championship. He's best known for the Christian feud over said European Championship. But other than that,
that was it.
Nothing.
That was it.
All because he was a WCW guy. And you wonder why guys like Sting and Hogan and Nash and Hall didn't want to be around during this time. And Steiner.
It's because of what Vince did to DDP and how he booked him. So, yeah, I don't blame them one bit. Infuriating. But this next match was not infuriating, Tomas.
Here we go. It's the infamous match. It's Kurt Angle versus Shane McMahon in a street fight. In a street fight, this fucking was.
Oh my God, dude. This is probably, I'm just going to come right out and say it. This is the best match I've ever seen from Shane McMahon. 100%.
It is.
Kurt Angle, one of Kurt Angle's crowning achievements for sure.
Shane,
this is his third match on the show. And for the match to be this fucking good, like, come on.
Shane, say what you want about Shane. With a few exceptions, Shane went into his matches understanding his role. And the shit that Shane McMahon is willing to do is fucking mind-blowing. You talk about him jumping off the set, the SummerSlam 2000 or Backlash 2001. You talk about later on jumping off Hell in a Cell in 2016. The very next year, jumping off the cell in 2017, taking multiple coast to coast, getting concussed by Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, getting thrown off the cage by Braun Strowman at WrestleMania a couple years ago. You know, getting in there with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and get the shit kicked out of him. Getting his head slammed into a car window by AJ Styles. He knew and he understood his role. They talk about it in this match too. Shane McMahon is not a trained professional wrestler, and he knew that. He went in there.
You know what he is? He's Evil Knievel. Like,
he's fearless.
To do anything.
He is absolutely fearless. And you know what? We're just going to get right to it because the match starts out as a brawl. It spills to the outside, and we're going to talk about that spot.
Oh, we're going to talk about that spot, but I actually really loved that Kurt was trying to one-up Shane on, like, the chain.
Oh, yes, that's important. That's important. We do need to talk about.
Yeah, Kurt was, like, getting into the amateur position, which sounds very, very wrong out of context. And he's like, come on, Shane, you know, just show me what you got. And then, you know, Kurt, of course, out-wrestles Shane McMahon, because why wouldn't he? Shane McMahon, who is wearing a red, white, and blue baseball jersey, on the back of which says Kurt's Kryptonite, because he was talking about Kurt being like the American superhero, like Superman. And, you know, Shane is basically his Lex Luthor in this context. Shane then kicks Kurt Angle right in the freaking gut, and he throws a few loafers at Kurt. And, Yeah, these haymakers are very, very stiff. Shane McMahon, again, like I said, not a trained professional wrestler. This is a fight, and he just whiffs one on Kurt Angle, and he is just gushing blood from the get-go.
Spills to the outside. Shane is going crazy with the kendo stick. There's some good spots there. Yeah. But here we go.
How can you forget Shane? How can you forget Shane putting the ankle lock on Kurt?
Your favorite trope.
Yep. That's part of why I love this match. I don't even care about the other stuff. That was what made it. Shane stealing the ankle lock. I'm kidding.
So let's give some context to what was supposed to happen. So they're fighting on the stage. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, pieces of the set are gigged. So it's for a big grandioso spot. The panels on the side of the stage for the King of the Ring were supposed to be made out of sugar glass, the same kind of glass that's used in movies. It breaks really easily. There's no shards. It disintegrates, basically. And Kurt Angle was supposed to belly to belly Shane McMahon through the sugar glass to make a big loud noise, get a big pop out of the crowd. And this one panel was not gigged.
No.
So Angle goes for stead.
None of the panels were gigged. And you want to know why? So even getting before this spot, Kurt goes for a snap suplex on the aisleway. Shane reverses it, gives Kurt a suplex of his own. Kurt lands right on his fucking back, and you can tell something is wrong. Like a bunch of those don't try this at home videos, Kurt says he describes, I think I broke my tailbone. This is the match he was referring to here. He takes that
Angle
suplex.
Wasn't even the one that got fucked up the most in this match.
Yeah, Kurt breaks his fucking tailbone, and Shane somehow comes out worse for wear. And then Kurt
Angle talks about this match in great detail, and it's a great listen if any of you are interested. But Angle goes for a belly to belly. It's supposed to go through the glass. It's supposed to be this big spot. The panel's not gigged. He belly to belly Shane with full intention on the glass shattering. God. It does not shatter, and Shane lands right on his fucking head on the cement.
And the thud is the sound of Shane's head hitting that concrete is seared into my mind forever. I remember the first time I watched this match and hearing that just clunk of Shane's skull hitting that floor, like, I thought he was dead. Like, I could have sworn, like, my word, how is this fucker still moving?
So Angle famously tells that he got scared. He goes over to Shane, and Shane only says one thing: do it again. Shane is adamant on shattering this panel of glass.
Shane was determined.
Second belly to belly, and it shatters. That thing shatters into a million pieces. The crowd gasps in horror, as they should. Shane is covered in blood. There's little tiny pieces of the sugar glass stuck in Kurt Angle's shoulder and his back.
Well, it's actually plexiglass. That's part of the reason why it didn't break, because part of the reason why they switched the glass and they didn't tell the performers, I don't know why they didn't tell the performers this, but part of the reason why it wasn't sugar glass is because of the pyro that plays at the beginning of the show. So the pyro and the impact there would have shattered the glass on impact if it were sugar. So they thought, you know what? We'll just switch it over to plexiglass and we'll have the pyro. I'm like, is the pyro...
Little to know that
I don't know.
Angle was going to suplex Shane through there. So they go on the inside of the set. And then Angle attempts another belly to belly. The other panel is also not gigged. And thankfully, Angle knows I just dropped Shane on his head. If this goes wrong again, and it did, to basically break Shane's fall. So he goes for another belly to belly. Shane just bounces off the panel. And the fans are chanting one more time. And again, Angle tells infamously that Shane is just telling him, like, you need to break that panel. You need to break that glass. Keep doing it until I break that glass. He goes for another belly to belly. It does not break. Angle just gets frustrated and he fucking chucks Shane through the panel. And my favorite shot of that spot is when you see from the outside, because you don't know what's going on in there, and you just see Shane fucking hurling through that glass.
And Kurt even says that was the worst thing he could have done, is send Shane hurling there head first through the plexiglass. And referee Mike Chioda is just begging for this match to end at this point. He's checking on both guys and, like, they're spent. They're clearly, like, out of their element here. Kurt especially, in a street fight, this is an amateur wrestler working a street fight style match. So the fact that he was able to adapt to this well is just beyond me. Speaks volumes as to why Kurt Angle's like one of my favorites. So Kurt goes for a pinfall on the outside, and Mike Chioda, the motherfucker, is adamant that the match must end in the ring per street fight rules. And I'm like, motherfucker, it could be false count anywhere if you really wanted it to be.
I think they were talking about that throughout the match, you know, just kind of pressing that fact that this was not false count anywhere.
Yeah, so Kurt ends up grabbing one of the road cases because he can't lift Shane, you know, with a broken tailbone and everything like that. He grabs a road case, starts pushing Shane towards the ring. Paul Heyman is putting it over as one of Kurt's three eyes. It's the intelligence! It's the intelligence! And then he brings Shane into the ring, and then JR is just begging for the end at this point. He covers Shane after adamantly telling Mike Chioda, count him this time. Do not tell me I can't pin him. And then he goes for the cover, and fucking Shane kicks out. Like, are you serious? What else could these two do to each other? After the fucking
Shane
spot?
Was adamant on finishing this match. So Angle gets Shane up, and the only thing Shane is left to do is to low blow this motherfucker. It's the only way to keep Angle down at this point. He grabs a trash can lid. He starts going to town on Angle's head. Each one ricocheting off the ropes, just slamming this trash can lid onto Shane's head. Another one of your favorite tropes comes back. Shane hits the Angle slam for a very close near fall.
Man, this crowd was on fire around this point. They were loving every second of this thing.
One spot we forgot to point out is that Shane went for a shooting star press early on in the match. And Shane's shooting star looks fucking gnarly.
Yeah. It's not the...
It is tied for the worst next to Billy Kidman.
I think this is a better shooting star than Billy Kidman. At least because Shane knows where he's landing. He's landing literally like, you know, stomach first. And Billy Kidman, you never know how he's landing.
Just the way Shane was so stiff during his flip just made me so nervous every time he went for a shooting star.
Oh, yeah, it was a clunky turnover, but, I mean, at least he would stick the landing. And he would land on the trash can, and it looked like a gnarly landing, but, you want to talk about gnarly landings as this finish. So, they go up to the top rope, and you know there's going to be some fireworks here for this grand finale. Kurt grabs a piece of plywood, because I guess he can't support himself on the top rope with a broken fucking tailbone. And then he puts the piece of plywood on top after wailing on Shane a couple of times. And Shane has famously told this story before in the past. It's a really fascinating behind-the-scenes watch with Shane talking about it. He talks about how he feels like flying as a victim of the Angle Slam. And sure as hell, Kurt goes for the Angle Slam. They fly up the top rope. And then when they make impact, Shane recalls blacking out. Doesn't remember anything after that. And you could tell Shane's eyes were twitching. He was done. And then Kurt
Something about Kurt Angle using a platform for an elevated Angle slam is just fucking nasty. Because, you know, the top rope is worse enough. The fact that Angle has support with this platform, that he can get more height, more distance, and more velocity on that Angle slam is absolutely just terrifying.
God.
You're going to pay me to take that spot.
No. But...
And to make things even worse, you see when Angle and Shane are setting up for the spot, that piece of plywood is barely holding on. It could have snapped into at any moment.
Oh, yeah. But sure as hell, they fucking pull the spot off. And both of them end up in the hospital that night. And they're like neighbors. And they're like, we did it, pal. Kurt pins Shane McMahon clean as a whistle in the middle of the ring. How do you not give this match 5 stars? Like, how do you not?
Infamous for all the right and all the wrong reasons, for the stellar performance put on by both men, but just nasty spot after nasty spot after nasty spot, from Angle breaking his tailbone to the panels not being gigged and Shane landing on his head, the multiple suplexes trying to break the panels, just the blood and the guts and the elevated Angle slam, and just these two did not hold back.
This match, let me just put it this way. With everything that went wrong in this street fight, this could have been one of the biggest disasters in wrestling history. Like, chances are this could have been an episode of Dark Side of the Ring in its own right. But with clever improvisation and Shane McMahon's fearlessness and Kurt Angle being the fucking MVP of this pay-per-view, like, how do you not give 5 stars to the Ultimate Performance? It's so great. Absolutely.
It goes down in history for a reason. And I don't know what's more fascinating, the match itself or the backstage stories told by Shane and Angle.
Mm-hmm. Like, Angle does so many interviews. Shane doesn't really get interviewed all that much. So when you hear him talk about this match, like, it's really, really captivating stuff. Yeah, the dude's a lunatic in his, like, ideologies in terms of his booking. But, like, I mean, with his fearlessness, how can you not respect him? Like, go watch this match if you haven't yet. If you don't watch anything else on this show, just watch that one match.
The other big story of this pay-per-view, to segue into this, is the big triple threat match for the WWF Championship. But Stone Cold Steve Austin is afraid because throughout the show, there have been rumors that both Jericho and Benoit plan on taking the WWF Championship to WCW, whatever the fuck that means. You know.
What the fuck that means? WCW's out of business. Why would they go into WCW?
You know, it would be different. It would be different if Shane bought the promotion. He was still running Nitro in Atlanta, you know, maybe on a smaller scale. If WCW was being treated as a separate promotion, then yeah, be afraid. But when all of these WCW guys are just going to show up on Raw, then why should you be afraid of? That's like if WWE bought TNA and then you saw no TNA wrestlers except for a couple showing up on the show, and then there were no more Impact. And then, I don't know, John Cena saying he's going to take the WWE Championship to TNA Impact. Where would he be taking it?
Yeah,
to Universal Studios?
TNA Impact doesn't exist anymore. Yeah,
get on the Harry Potter ride with the championship. That'd be fun.
Yeah, Jericho and Benoit going to the CNN headquarters. You know, Chris Benoit going to, I don't know.
CM Punk threatening to take the WWE Championship to New Japan Pro Wrestling or Ring of Honor, that was a real threat.
Oh, yeah. That was a real threat because both of those companies actually existed.
Yeah.
All WWE had was their video archives. So, like, this whole invasion angle, this could be a whole other topic in and of itself. But, like, it was a
Benoit
complete sham.
And Jericho both basically say, well, Jericho says he tells himself he's just going to shut the hell up because he's not going to confirm or deny. Benoit kind of does the same thing. And he says, you know, the rumors are true. I think Benoit straight up admits he's going to take it to WCW. That has Stone Cold Steve Austin in a tizzy. Remember, Austin was best known in his heel run for his paranoia, and he is absolutely terrified. He bursts into William Regal's office. He wants to know where Vince McMahon is. That's very eerie considering the era we're in now. He wants Vince at the arena. He wants Vince to drop everything he's doing and come to the arena. It's minutes before his match, and he is just, where's Vince? Where's Vince? Tell Vince. And then Paul Heyman and JR say it best. Stone Cold is more concerned with Vince being at the arena than he is defending his championship.
Yeah, but there was no way that Vince wasn't at the arena for this show. There's absolutely no way. He was hiding. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not like SmackDown tomorrow night where Vince isn't going to be at the arena.
Yeah, good riddance. But yeah, so triple threat match. Stone Cold, of course, goes out there to defend his WWF Championship against Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. A little bit more backstory here. This feud kind of came around pretty much built off of that tag team title match where Triple H tore his quad. Benoit and Jericho take the titles, and Austin pretty much disowns Hunter at that point. Because what else are you going to do if your tag team partner's on the shelf?
The two-man power trip ended before it even started, in my opinion. Because, like you said, Triple H quickly lost the Intercontinental title. They lost the tag team titles, regardless of if Triple H got injured or not. The plan was always to take the tag team titles off of the two-man power trip. It's back to Austin. I call this a hot take or not, but I feel like Austin's heel run would have benefited more without the two-man power trip. It was a great concept. I get it. The two biggest heels in the company with all of the titles, but Austin was still trying to establish himself as the top heel. You know, his heel turn is one for the ages. The heel run, though, that's another subject.
Not so much. I agree.
Was Austin entertaining as fuck as a heel? Absolutely. But again, it was more entertaining to watch him be so fucking paranoid than it was him actually being, where was the badass that beat the shit out of The Rock at WrestleMania 17?
Yeah.
He turned into a paranoid, shriveling little coward.
Teaming him up with Vince McMahon, I think, was a mistake, too. Mainly because they had been feuding for so long. And, yeah, sure, the moment is cool. But then where do you go after that?
Oh, yeah. Stone Cold shaking hands with Vince McMahon is the equivalent of when Captain America said, "Hail Hydra."
Yeah.
And just like that storyline, it went nowhere. Absolutely. Captain America ended up being brainwashed. And they immediately snapped him out of it. He was never working with Hydra. Stone Cold Steve Austin shook hands with Vince McMahon. And that basically went nowhere. Austin turned into a shriveling, paranoid, cowardly heel who really didn't do anything. His championship run was very lackluster, but I think this was a good main event.
Yeah, they were putting on good matches, though. Stone Cold had a great one-on-one match with Chris Benoit in Edmonton, Benoit's hometown. Jericho and Benoit were double-teaming Austin throughout the majority of this first part of the match. Paul Heyman was chastising the faces for teaming up. It's every man for himself. Go for the title. And there was also a very eerie point in the match where Austin's beating on Benoit. He grabs the WWF title belt, which was the big cookie at the time. He holds it up to Benoit's face and he's like, "This will never be yours, son." And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah.
Fast forward 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. He would never hold that version of the belt, but, you know, we'll talk about WrestleMania 20 when we get to that in a few weeks. But it was a really good wrestled main event. I mean, there's not really a whole much else to say about it.
I think, okay, because it was unfortunately, it was one of those triple threats where it wasn't really a triple threat. It started off as a handicap match, and then it turned into 2 one-on-one matches between Austin and Jericho and Austin and Benoit. I think the original planned main event was Austin versus Benoit, and then Jericho was going to fight Triple H. But injuries happened.
Or could have been
something along the lines of that. But, you know, injuries happened, and you had to thrust Benoit and Jericho, you know, into this match.
Yeah, it was a weird triple threat. It's not like it was a bad one, but I feel like it also suffered from having to follow the street fight because everybody was so gassed after that. Everybody was just so, like, blown away by what Kurt and Shane had done that, like,
if there was one thing in this match that I really, really, really liked, it actually has one of a trope that I really enjoy, and they did it right in this match. Benoit puts the crippler crossface onto Austin, and Jericho puts the walls of Jericho onto Austin, and Austin taps out. And this is something that gets visited a lot, and it's the question that's never going to get answered: who actually wins the match? Because
nobody.
Both men have a submission on, and if he taps out, who do you give the championship to? I think they made a really stupid point in 2009 where they're like, "Well, who is he tapping out to?" I'm like, does it fucking matter? He's tapping out.
Co-champions.
But
co-champions.
You know, I love that. I think they did it all right in 2009 with John Cena, Triple H, and Randy Orton. I fucking hated when they did it in 2012 with Cena, Punk, and Big Show because they ended the match and they're like, "Oh, who wins the match? Who wins the match?" You've seen this happen before, motherfucker. It happened 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. Nobody wins the match, and you should know that. But I still like that sight of a double submission being putting on. And Austin has no choice but to tap out. He's in the crippler crossface and the walls of Jericho
at the same time. Why would he be tapping out?
They would do the same thing at New Year's Revolution 2006. I mean, not 2005, which we'll be getting into later on with Triple H. And, you know, if he were to tap out, of course, he would have been eliminated. But they did such a good job of selling that to be so devastating because, again, how do you not fucking tap out to that?
Right. Why wasn't he eliminated there? Why didn't he lose? But anyway.
Because Batista broke it up before he tapped out.
That's true. The ref does not ring the bell because he notices how much of a conundrum this is. And then Benoit and Jericho start fighting. And it's some really intense technical wrestling here. Austin's hitting the stunner on Benoit. Jericho's hitting, I don't think he hit the breakdown at any point in this match. He did hit a lion salt.
Thank God he didn't.
He hit a lion salt. He locked in the walls of Jericho at a couple different points. Benoit was going for a crossface. Some really good technical wrestling here.
Here's another downside to this match. A little bit overbooked because here comes WCW champion Booker T.
Oh, yes. Yep, you're right. Yeah, we're talking about invading forces. Austin is beating up on Jericho or Benoit, I believe. He threw someone back in the ring. And then there's a big ruckus at ringside. Because, yes, Booker T did jump over the railing, and he's another invading force, the last WCW champion ever. He gives Stone Cold a rock bottom through the announce table, otherwise known as a book end, or
which
a
I
uranagi.
fucking love. I fucking love that. I fucking love that Booker called it the bookend, just to fuck with The Rock.
The uranagi, the front-falling uranagi, and Stone Cold crashes through the Spanish announce table. Booker T is feeding off of this crowd. He's throwing up, like, WCW-style gang signs, and I'm like, full WCW's out of business.
You know, say what you want. I don't like the overbooking, but I will say, imagine, it is kind of cool if you think about it. The WCW champion, imagine if this happened before the buyout, and Booker T jumped the fucking railing to attack Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That would have been cool.
The world would have been ablaze. So in theory, it's cool.
Yes. So in Austin theory, Booker T jumps over the railing, and it's
still
It's yeah, I know. It's still it's cool enough visual. That was a very clean table break as well. I'll gotta give him credit. Like sometimes they'll do spots like at SummerSlam 2000, which I rewatched recently to hype myself up for Saturday. Triple H gives Kurt Angle the pedigree, and the table breaks prematurely, gives Angle a massive concussion. But this time around, you know, the table is so clean, and Stone Cold goes right through it. Booker T escapes through the crowd. Benoit and Jericho continue to wrestle, and it's I don't want to say it's like a side like a distraction almost from what's going on with Booker T, but it's a sign of things to come. Which
and then you want to talk about shit that's unfortunate. The ruthless injuries get fuch worse. In case Triple H tearing his quad wasn't enough, that would put him on the shelf for almost a year.
So what happened is Benoit had hit a diving headbutt earlier on. Then he goes and puts Jericho on the top rope, and then he hits a gigantic back suplex, and Jericho lands okay. But the way Benoit landed, he had ruptured a disc that fragmented into his spinal column, breaking his neck, essentially. And he would be out of action until after WrestleMania 18, pretty much an entire year at this point. And he was just done. That was the last move of the match. Because Stone Cold Steve Austin would sneak in. I don't know if this was a premature ending because of the injury. But it definitely felt like the finish came out of nowhere. Benoit hits the back suplex. The guy executing the move then is the one that gets pinned by the champion. Stone Cold sneaks in, pins Benoit, and by the skin of his teeth retains the WWF title. Benoit would be on the shelf until July of 2002.
Man,
unfortunate for him.
You know, for a match that we defended a lot, it sure sounds like there were a lot of things we did not like in this match.
Yeah. Oh, no.
And putting it into perspective.
There was some good wrestling in here. I mean, it's a borderline very good main event, I would say. I wouldn't call it great. I didn't really like how the match was kind of split off into two one-on-ones, but
a little bit overbooked at the end. I get it. You're still trying to protect Austin as the heel. He's the cowardly heel. He's going to, you know, win by hook or by crook. And this was one of those, it was just a coincidental win.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, done in by an injury.
Yeah, it's also a match impacted by injury. I feel like it also ended prematurely. I feel like they had a few other spots planned here and there. Stone Cold still would have snuck in a win, but, I mean, this felt like, you know, where they had to go home early almost. Benoit hit that back suplex. He'd be out the rest of the year. It almost reminds me of when Adam Cole got that massive concussion at Forbidden Door. They had to end that match early, too. It was a four-way. It feels like a similar situation here in 2001.
It's unfortunate, really. But I feel like I can only give this match a 3.5 for effort.
I would say 3.5, too. 3 3/4 if I'm being a generous guy.
Very important to point out, though, WWF was advertising Fully Loaded the following month.
They were.
But that pay-per-view would never fucking happen because they would get Invasion instead. And holy fucking shit. I'm just going to say this right now. If you want us to talk about Invasion, let us know because I'm tempted. I'm very tempted to talk about Invasion.
Too. Let us know down in the comments. I'll be putting up another retro poll for a retro SummerSlam. It'll be in the month of August. Of course, we're going to be talking about this year's SummerSlam, which is on Saturday. Fucking odd that SummerSlam is in July this year.
I can't get over that there's no pay-per-views in August. We have to go a whole August with no AEW or WWE pay-per-views, and then bam, first 2 weekends of September, all out in Clash at the Castle.
Well, let us know if you want us to talk about Quake by the Lake for AEW or something like that. I'm down.
Just so we have something current on this channel.
Yeah.
Whole August with no wrestling, wrestling events.
Whole August we have WrestleMania 20 to talk about. I'm going to be putting up a retro poll on Twitter for a retro SummerSlam that you guys can pick from. They're all going to be from before the new millennium as well. So keep that in mind when you're casting your vote. So let us know down in the comments what you thought of King of the Ring 01. If you watched it, feel free to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell as well if you want to keep up to date with everything ZNT Wrestling Show. Of course, I'm talking about all things movies in general. It's always a fun time with you guys. Always a fun time with Tomas. Thank you all so much again. Yeah, dude. Like, I can't wait for SummerSlam.
Hell yeah.
I can wait for the main event, which I know you're going to torture me with all night.
Last man standing. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar again.
And Brock Lesnar has let us all down for being an unprofessional prick. But anyway.
The Miz versus Logan shit.
Oh, you mean The Miz versus an abortion?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
failed one.
Oh, Jesus. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and wrap up the podcast here, my friends. Stay tuned for SummerSlam. It'll be fun. Let us know what your predictions are in the comments as well, just for funsies. And, yeah, take care, guys.